Welcome to Behind the Story, where we discover the story behind your favourite stories. My name's Lisa from the Collab Press, and I'm also a sweet rom-com author.
And I'm Naomi. I write historical fiction set in Bible times. We had a great pre-recorded interview with rom-com author Ash Keller, which was lots of fun. If you are an author, this will be a good one for you as well. But before we get that on, tell me what's going on with you. You had a win here with your Kickstarter.
Yeah, so I ran a Kickstarter under my pen name, which I co-author, so that's why I have a pen name. And so just finished. As we're recording this, it's finishing in a couple of hours. But we did fun, so that was good.
Yay!
With being a pen name,
It's a little sketchy there for a second, though.
Yeah, it's a bit harder, like not having as a well-established audience.
Yeah.
And also because it's a bit different with the pen name because there's also two of us who represents and videos.
Right.
So we don't really have a presence, social media presence as much, really. We have a TikTok account, and that's just focused on the books, the stories, not us. And then we have a newsletter which has about 3,000 subscribers. But most of those people, signed up for a free book, so they like being on the review team, which is great.
Yeah, reviews are good.
Yeah, that's good. And that's a great way for people, if they're on the budget, to be on a review team is excellent. And it's definitely great to have that support as well, because the review team, they just love the books. When's the next one, And so even though I was telling them about the Kickstarter, like, when do I get my ARC book?
When do I get to launch?
Are you going to? I said, well, later in the year. So that's the thing with the Kickstarter. If you're involved, you get it earlier. But, the readers, you have to wait longer. If you don't want to support the Kickstarter, you do have to wait long, because that's the point of the Kickstarter, is that it's early. They're getting the early edition, but also they might have a special edition like the hardback, which won't be available anywhere, or they get signed hardback and some swag and stuff. So because my co-author is in America, we are doing some swag this time. So, like Smelly Candle.
Was that a pretty popular tier?
It wasn't actually, because romance category, they're mostly ebooks or paperbacks with Kickstarters even. But yeah, we did get a few signed hardbacks, which is nice. And one lady from my Lisa Renee Kickstarter supported and got the signed hardback. So and so I said to my Lisa Renee Kickstarter people, this is my other pen name, my co-author, probably if you're doing a Kickstarter, if you're watching and you're an author, for the romance category, $300 US is probably ideal sort of funding goal, so you're not stressing like hey, are you going to reach it? Because my first one I did $500 US, because that's what most people do, even if fantasy or whatever, unless they're doing a print run. If they're sci-fi or fantasy, they need to raise a certain, like, their campaigns are massive, like, they might need a goal of 10 grand,
20,000. Yeah
It's amazing. Like, there's a New Zealand one running at the moment, which just finished, but it raised about $30,000. So if you're an author and you don't write romance, Kickstarter is definitely the way to go, because, like, I mean, obviously there's a lot of cost in that. There's, hardbacks, they're getting foil covers and sprayed edges and bits and pieces. So there would be a cost. But still, they might, make $8,000, which is a great advance. You know what I mean?
Right.
Some advances these days are only $4,000.
If you're new to Kickstarter, it's not like this author is getting 30,000, or even with Lisa's 500. It's because you're going into fulfillment of the hardbacks and the paperbacks, but you're also paying your editor and your cover design. You're getting the stuff done, so it's not necessarily like a huge payday all at once, except for, it sounds like
that's right. So if you're a smaller author, it can be just recovering, getting some your startup costs. But for someone there's a lot of people already have a story and they're deciding to do a special edition hardback. So the story's been out and they've got super fans, but now they can have this beautiful book on their shelf and it's signed and it's all fancy. So that's the other appeal for that.
The draw is exclusivity. You get something really cool that nobody else does. So
yeah, and people love that kind of stuff. So yeah, other than that, personally, I mentioned last time I'm a grandma. So yeah, see, here's my grandma glasses.
Yeah.
I know,
those are cute.
Now.
I love them.
So that's my reading glasses. But yeah, so that's just the person that's been lots of fun having a baby in the house, and kittens as well. I've got 4 kittens because I breed ragdoll cats. So that'll pay for private school fees and things like that. Just hand a kitten to the school. Here, there's one cat.
There you go. This one will work. This will cover a whole year.
So what about you, Naomi? What have you been up to?
Well, as this airs, my New Testament book with Donna Elaine will be out, and their numbers grew. So it's been super exciting to work with Donna, and we'll actually bring her on next time for our intro and chat. So this is her first foray into biblical fiction, and so it's been a lot of fun. She's an outstanding writer and just an all-around joy to work with. So I felt like the weak link a lot, but I do.
Now you know how I feel with my co-author, which you know who's amazing.
But on the other hand, I know I bring the biblical fiction platform, and so I know we make a good team. But she writes so fast and so brilliant first round, and then mine are so sloppy and takes forever, and you know.
Oh, so I know about those things.
You did it. Where you been? But that's been it's been a lot of fun, and we finished our Kickstarter, and we'll be able to pay a good chunk of our editor with that. So unlike what we will be hearing today with Ash, who writes 25,000 words, ours is over 400,000, or I'm sorry, 100,000, and that's 400-page book. So we got a big old chunk of a book. So of course the editor charges more for more words. So naturally. But we had a really successful Kickstarter, really pleased with that. What I would do differently is get it to the editor way earlier. So she had a family emergency, and that we were kind of on a crunch timeline to get Kickstarter fulfilled and then launch at this, pretty much the same time. So I would do that differently next time by getting it to the editor much earlier, which is, again, that's on me because Donna is brilliantly fast as she writes. So note to self. And then we won't be so stressed when we're trying to fulfill and also get it ready for pre-order for the general public. So that's my lesson learned.
It's a good way to get a head start and then get it all sorted. But yeah, it is different, and a lot of people do find it a lot of work, and it is a bit nerve-wracking your first time. But once the second one isn't so bad. Like I wasn't nervous or whatever about it, but it's
until it doesn't get funded.
Well, I sort of know because people pledge in the first 48 hours and then the last. Okay. And there's a lull. So I sort of knew that. And Kickstarter sends a couple of reminders to the followers. So your backer updates are going to your backers. Okay. But the update, you don't have access to those 40, 50 followers. Kickstarter does. So they send it 48 hours moment. And then an 8-hour one or something. Okay. And then, you've all those people, like, I guess they want to also see that it's funding, some of them. They
right.
See what's coming out. So yes, but anyway, it's all fun and games.
Give yourself lots of time, don't stress, and enjoy it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, a 2-week Kickstarter is good. Dragging it out isn't fun at all.
Yeah,
I've heard.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's bring on our guest today is Ash Keller. She writes clean contemporary romance and romantic comedies. Her books are sweet on the heat, but big on heart. Welcome to Behind the Story, Ash.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, I've looked forward to meeting you personally because we interact a bit on Instagram, and I've see you around in the different groups for sweet rom-coms. I'm really love how you write short rom-coms, so we'll talk a lot about that today. But before we get going, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you write.
So I write short and sweet rom-com sugar bombs. They're a little different than other romantic comedies in the market because they are all short reads. Some of them are novellas and some of them are short novellas, but they can all be read in under 2 hours.
There's Insta Love as well, and short stories. Is yours sort of usually they have sort of like a background second chance so that it's already established, or is it Insta Love? What do you do, that kind of stuff too?
Usually my rom-coms are not exactly insta love. There's usually pre-established relationships in my books, but there have been a couple of books where they haven't met before the story. And it depends on what you call insta love. In the insta love market for the steamy romance books, they tend to know immediately, upon it's love at first sight. So it's insta love in that respect. In my books, they develop their love story much more quickly than in other books and perhaps in real life. But I wouldn't necessarily call most of them insta love. I think they do get to know each other before they declare their I love yous.
Yeah. Do you progress the story or the season or the months or the weeks, or is it just still happening in real time, or happens in a month or something? How do you do that?
For the most part, the story happens in a short period of time, but I have an epilogue usually that's set in the future that kind of gives more of a look at their happily ever after. So they don't get married, usually. I do have a marriage of convenience book, but usually they don't get married for a year or two or, whatever until after the story.
Well, we're talking about your latest book, Making the Cut. It's book 2 in the Sticks and Stones series. And the blurb is, how's your love life? 4 little words designed to cut to the quick. Who knew mean girls grew up to be PTA moms? What they don't know is that I'm head over heels in love with my brother's best friend. Unfortunately, Bishop has always treated me like a surrogate little sister, but lately things between us have felt different. So Making the Cut is a short and sweet rom-com sugar bomb. It's a standalone novella, low angst, low heat, all the feels. So what is the story behind Making the Cut and the whole Sticks and Stones series?
You already said that Making the Cut is book 2, but the heroine, Hazel, she is the sister of the main character in the first book, Suited for Love. All of the books in that series they're small town romance in a beach town. They all feature curvy heroines, and the main characters are more middle-aged. They're in their late 30s, and some are in their early 40s. So it's sort of they're finding love a little bit later in life, and most of them are finding new careers and searching for their happily ever after because maybe they've had heartbreak in the past and that sort of thing. Hazel happens to be a newly empty nester. Her child is 19 and has gone to college and has an apartment of his own. And since she was a teenage mom, she spent most of her life focusing only on his needs. So she's now going to make time for herself and her own hopes and dreams.
So there's probably a little bit of finding who she is and finding herself in there too, huh?
Yes.
Awesome.
She has always been the seamstress in the town and sort of she's a behind the scenes kind of person. Her mom is the mayor and her brother is a business owner. And she's now going to find her own voice and maybe make some waves and shock a few people with some of her decisions. But yeah, she's definitely going to find her own voice before the end of the book.
I love it.
Did you find you're writing to market, your readers are in that age group, or, earlier empty nesters, like you say, or early 40s? Because what are you more on Instagram? Are you getting sort of like a middle-aged audience on there?
Honestly, I write the books that suit me. So I happen to be in my early 40s, and I found love in my mid 30s. I was 36 when I married my husband. So it just sort of suits me. It's sort of the same reason I write short books, even though most romantic comedies in the sweet market tend to be really long. It's just what I happen to like, and that's what my natural voice is suited for.
I love it.
That's excellent. It's good to, write what you're interested in and what you love, and if there's a market there, and just tailoring for that, because then that keeps you going rather than trying to push, trying to do these. I see some of the
It's not worth
they're 330 pages or something. I'm like, oh,
Right.
Stretch it out to that.
You should have stopped earlier.
That's sort of how I feel about it. I do like to read those books too.
It's not that I don't like them, it's just thinking of writing it. Like, how could I make I'm like, I love, the short novellas are great. Like 25,000 is great, but doing 40,000, 50,000, yeah. But after that, I've got the story out. Is what happened.
What are your words at these days, Lisa?
I did a rom-com series novella, because novella series, which were, the first one was with a collection, and it was 25,000.
25.
It had to be 25, so I did the whole series, or 25,000.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I've done a couple of novellas that are shorter, and then my novels are around 50,000.
Yeah.
25,000 is my happy space.
So
that's where I like to be.
45?
25.
25.
Okay. 25. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I found
awesome.
that.
So you've got some really great reviews on Amazon. Samantha writes, these short, sweet romances always leave me wanting more. Ash Keller is a pro at writing this perfect wrapped morsel. And Boo's Mom really emphasized with the heroine who feels time passing her by and watches everyone else around her moving on with their lives while she is trapped in the same place. What she doesn't realize is Bishop is trapped right there beside her. What is it that finally sparks Hazel to place her life in, like, to take her place in life rather than watching it go by without her?
Her son has moved away, so
Okay.
she's no longer needing to focus as much on him, because like all teenagers, he doesn't really want his mom to focus so much on him. They always need you, right? Like, I'm 42, I think, and I still need my mom, but it is different when your kids move away. And so she has some time on her hands to work on her own dreams. And her brother's wife, Margot, from the first book, Suited for Love, has really been encouraging her to take her seamstress business to the next level. So that's also helping.
Very cool. I think that's a good life lesson too, to have a friend who's going to encourage you and call you out, and also to speak up for who God designed you to be. So I think if you're watching this, we'd love for you to comment. Tell us about that friend who speaks into your life and that secret dream of yours that you hope someday will come true if you give yourself enough time for that. So comment below. We'd love to see your responses on that.
Your tagline is short and sweet rom-com sugar bombs. So how did you land on this niche? I know you're saying you liked writing short, but you're finding this spot in there, and mostly the shorter ones seem to be a bit more steamy. So how did you go landing on your niche, and how's it going?
So I write children's books as well, and I write primarily for the educational market. And during COVID, all of the schools and libraries closed down. So my publishing contracts were canceled and postponed, and I needed a way to supplement my income. So I thought, I was already writing humorous children's fiction, and sweet rom-coms sort of seemed like the closest thing in the adult genre to that. So it sort of just naturally fit my voice. I like to write short, funny stories, whether they're for kids or adults.
Oh, that's so cool. We've heard a lot of COVID-inspired author journeys here in the last couple of years. It's really neat to see. And so what started you on the writing journey to begin with?
I don't really know. I think like most writers, I've kind of always been a writer. I won a competition when I was in the 5th grade, and
Oh,
that was cool. So I think I just always wanted to be a writer. I did have a career as a lawyer for many years, and I was always starting books but not finishing them. And then I found out about the educational children's book market at a conference, and you can make a full-time living writing children's books for the educational market. It pays
cool.
really well, and I was able to break into that pretty quickly and replace my lawyer income. So that was wonderful. So I kind of just fell into it, really. But then, worldwide pandemic kind of
Yeah,
threw a wrench
kind of
in
spurs
things.
it.
Yeah.
Was that more like a traditional contract through a publisher, or was direct with an education system?
So in the United States, there are a lot of educational publishers that write level readers for kids, like Fontes and Pinnell is a really popular one. A lot of people's kids, they might read at like a K level. So I write fiction for those publishers that are sold then directly to schools and libraries. You can find some of them on, Amazon and things like that, but for the most part, those books are written specifically at grade level for children in school.
Yeah. So that's a big change for
It's
you.
really fun.
Yeah, having them, it's just you've got your way in them, a direct line. You don't have to do any marketing really, like once you got that connection. So how have you found having to set up your own brand and like marketing and finding your way as an independent publisher?
Yeah, that's definitely something that's been more difficult about writing for adults, especially for the educational children's book world. You already have a built-in market. They deal with all of that, but they already have the schools that they work with, and I don't have to do anything. I sometimes will do like a quick little interview or something like that, but I don't do any marketing for those books at all. For my adult books, I obviously have to do some marketing or no one will ever discover my books. I'm still super nervous about things like ads. I don't want to go back to practicing law. And currently I have an income that's replaced my income as a lawyer. Um, I have some money saved in the bank, specifically for my business. And I'm really scared to dip into that money for ad spend, not knowing if it will, if I'll get a return on my money, because that's my cushion that keeps me from having to be a lawyer. And I really just don't want to go back to practicing law. But I know that in order to level up, I need to start being brave about ads and start reinvesting some of my money into ads. But for now, I just do author collaborations. I really like to work with other authors and do Instagram giveaways and joint sales and things like that.
Have you found a good community with Instagram with the collaboration with what were your readers in particular, Bookstagrammers? Do you have a good connection there, do you feel?
Yes, I love Instagram. It's just a really positive place to be. I don't like Facebook as much because I just feel like there's a lot of negativity on Facebook, directed to authors and about books, but also just in general, like news in the world that I don't necessarily want to be bogged down by. But I collaborate with several other authors. And we have a Facebook group called Clean Romcom Readers, which if you are a clean romcom reader or author, I highly recommend looking up that group because it's a positive space that's fun to be around. But yeah, I really like connecting with readers directly through email as well. I send a weekly newsletter. And my readers are great about responding to those newsletters. Anytime I have a cover reveal or behind the scenes stuff, they always respond and give me I have one reader who always just responds with a little heart. She never says anything, but she just sends a little heart.
So cute.
And I love that. I know every week I'm going to get a little heart from her. So that sort of thing is really nice.
That's fantastic. So this might be a little controversial, but which of your rom-coms is your favorite? Are you allowed to say?
I think that's fine to say. I really like Suited for Love. It's the first book in my Sticks and Stones series. The town in that series is inspired by Tybee Island, Georgia, which I grew up vacationing to with my family. So there's just lots of memories and history there. So I love just that aspect of the town in the story. And also the main character in Suited for Love, I just have a lot in common with her. Like she kind of left like a corporate world to follow her own dreams and start her own business, which I feel like I kind of did leaving the legal world and going into publishing. And she's also around the same age I was when I fell in love. And she's a curvy girl like me. So there's like the very beginning of that book starts with a Zumba scene that's just hilarious, which was kind of inspired by real life experiences that I've had at gyms. So I just think that book is tons of fun.
Awesome.
Sounds like it. So it's a big contrast, lawyer, quite a serious sort of job, and writing rom-coms. Are you naturally funny, or was this a good release for you?
I do think that I'm naturally funny. My husband is the funniest person I've ever met, and he thinks I'm funny. So I think that's a ringing endorsement. And I did, when I was practicing law, I was a public defender, but I spent a lot of years specializing in juvenile law. So for a while, I only worked with incarcerated teens on like post-conviction matters. So I've always kind of worked with kids. A lot of those teenagers were reluctant readers who read at like a third or fourth grade reading level. So that's kind of how I also got started with children's book writing. And I enjoyed it. I did like being a lawyer, and I did find a niche that I could work in that was rewarding sometimes, yeah. But it's also a very soul crushing type of career if you get invested in your clients' lives. And eventually I just burned out and needed something more creative and less heartbreaking to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that humor really did a lot to reach those kids too and help them be comfortable with you. And I'm sure you were a really great influence on their lives. And I know what you're saying about the heart crushing, but thank you for spending those times in that with that situation. So what would you say is the most challenging part of the writing process for you?
I am a terrible procrastinator. So getting started on a new book is by far the most difficult task for me. There have been times where I didn't finish the book until the day it was due.
Oh.
And that's just stressful and results in a lot of tears. And my husband's always like, you'll get it done. You always do. And he's right. But my goal for 2024 is to do a much better job with not procrastinating so much.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. That and cleaner writing the first round, like I'd be really good with that because that would be amazing.
I am a big fan of having written a book, but not so much the act of writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it actually getting into the book in the beginning, or just getting it done and getting to the end is a struggle? Is it the start or the end? Or both?
It's definitely the start for me. I have the hardest time writing the first chapter. And I know that I should just move on and write the book and worry about the first chapter later, but I cannot move forward until I have the first chapter nailed and sent to beta readers and thumbs up. This made me laugh. I loved it. Until I get that point finished with my first chapter, I just can't move on.
I heard a good tip recently. When you're finishing your last book, write the first chapter of the next book, especially if it's in a series, and then you've got the start. So I might try that next time. And I mean, it's always good also to have a first chapter, even if it's not perfect, for your book.
Absolutely.
You've got a pre-order. Now, the stress of having this deadline, which you're independent published, are you putting up pre-orders? You're having to put a pre-order because you publish your next book, you got the pre-order happening. Is that the pressure that you've set for yourself, that you to help you not?
Yes. Yes. And I actually decided on my last book not to do a pre-order, and it was a Halloween book. And today is November the 2nd, and that book is still not published.
No. Okay.
So I think I need the pre-order.
Yes, I get the
Oops.
dilemma. I get the dilemma. I don't like the pressure, you know, like as well, the pre-order and the date that you've got to have it all done, but it does help you get it done.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, absolutely.
So what is something that people might be surprised to learn about you, Ash?
I'm kind of an open book, but people may be surprised to know that after I end this call, I will have to go find my chickens. I have 2 hens, and they like to roost in random bushes. So I have to carry them to bed every night like naughty children because they will not go to bed on their own in their coop. So
funny.
that's what I'll have to do as soon as this call is over. I usually make my husband do it, but he is out of town. So
I feel like that needs to show up in one of your books here if it has not already.
in my second book in my Men of Engine 17 series, has chickens in it, and that was
Nice.
definitely inspired by my current situation.
That's awesome.
So what is one thing you have kept forever that really should be thrown away?
So just the other day, I found this old stretched out gross sock that had my name written on the bottom of it, because when I was a child, my mother labeled everyone's socks because she didn't want them to like get mixed up. And instead of just writing like an A, because I was the only person in our family with an A, she wrote my entire name, which is Ashley. So all across the bottom of the sock in big giant letters is my name. And I really should throw it out, but I just found it hilarious that I still had that sock. And it reminded me of being so mad at my mother when I was a kid and being so embarrassed to take my shoes off in front of my friends because my socks had my name on them, that I kept it. It's actually tacked up on a bulletin board in the hallway.
I feel like that should also go in a book. Oh, I love that. So if
I
you're
think that
watching
to
and
be a rom-com writer,
yeah,
I think to be a rom-com writer, you really need to have ridiculous moments in your life that you can call upon. And I have lots and lots of those.
that's funny. Well, I would like to challenge our readers, our audience, that if you have a ridiculous moment, that you should comment so we can get a laugh out of it. And you never know, you might get it, might show up in a rom-com one of these days.
It might.
So what's coming up next for you?
So I will eventually be publishing my Halloween book, which is called Catching the Vampire Bat. And it is based on, so the main character is a female biologist who is a bat biologist. And in real life, my husband is a bat biologist. Nice. So I have tagged along with him on a lot of bat projects. So that's, it was inspired by those experiences with my husband. And I will also have additional books in my Sticks and Stones series coming out next year.
So where can the readers find you to keep in touch? Do you have a newsletter they can sign up on your website? Is that the best way, newsletters or Instagram?
It depends on what kind of contact the reader wants. If they want weekly updates, then my newsletter is definitely the way to go. You can find that on my website, ashkeller.com. If they prefer Instagram, I'm usually there every day, so they can certainly get in touch with me there. I love Instagram. And I also, like I said earlier, recommend the Clean Romcom Readers Group on Facebook.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being with us today on Behind the Story.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
So remember to connect with Ash and all those things if you want to sign up for her novella. She's also offering a digital copy of both Suited for Love and making the cut. So just comment on any of the questions we've asked during the interview to our viewers. Also, we would love some funny moments, awkward moments that maybe Ash or myself could add into books. So give us some inspiration and comment on any funny, awkward moments. Ash had some great ones that she's slipped into her book. So we'd love to get some more ideas.
As always, we've got freebies. Lisa and I both offer a freebie. If you're here for the historical biblical fiction, I've got On Desolate Heights that's available with signing up to my newsletter or free on all platforms.
And I have a sweet and clean rom-com as well. It's available in ebook or in audiobook. It's on my website, so we'll have the link in the show notes too.
Coming up next, we are happy to welcome back biblical fiction author Tessa Afshar. I'm excited for that. But until then, thank you for joining us on this edition of Behind the Story. Until next time, let us run the race with endurance, looking to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. See you next time.